lights are out and you stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life feels lemons, just hold me. Just hold me. Just hold me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just hold me. Just hold me. Just hold me. Just hold me.
After a difficult and trying race at the Charlotte Roval last week, we come now to the Michigan International Speedway, the legacy version of the Michigan International Speedway, for the beginning of the round of 8 of the playoffs here on ESBN. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening here tonight. And alongside me is my broadcast partner, Tony Trapasso. Tony, it's the legacy version, as I had mentioned, of this racetrack, which means it's going to be very, very bumpy. These cars are going to have a problem settling in as the run goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to come to the Irish Hills of Michigan here in picturesque Brooklyn, Michigan. And if you've never been to this area, this should be a bucket list track for any racing fan. Just the Even if you're not a racing fan, there is so much to do in this area as far as picturesque scenery and everything else. But tonight we are focusing on the ARCA cars here tonight at the 2 miler that is the Michigan International Speedway. The thing that's got me a little bit concerned is the track temperature currently is at 102 degrees, and the sun is right at that apex, right about noon sim time. So that temperature is going to continue to go up as this race wears on, and all that's going to do is just completely burn the right front tire off if these guys aren't careful.
One thing we've also noticed is that the humidity of this race has gone down as well. It was up at 96% humidity during the practice session. It came down for qualifying. It's come down a little bit more here during this warm-up session, which these guys are having their drivers meeting, and it'll also look to come down a little bit more from the race. But 96%, even we both mentioned when we came into the session how foggy it was around this racetrack.
Yeah, I was taking a guess that it was probably snowing, um, in Michigan if they were doing live weather. But then I looked, and it's actually in August.
Yep, snow in August.
In August sim time, 76 degrees, 102-degree track temperature. These guys are going to be in for one tonight. As we have whittled it down to the round of 8, 75% fuel fill tonight, and these guys have only 4 sets of tires to get through all 75 laps. And we know that Legacy Michigan, unlike the new pave that they've been letting guys use, this Legacy version, it'll beat on the right side tires if you're not careful. I mean, yeah, you can run three wide around here most of the night safely, but whoever's on that low lane, once you've worn all the goodie off the tires, you're along for the ride if you're down near the yellow line.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we're beginning the round of 8 here this week. You see the point standings on your screen right now. Everybody in the top 8 evened out at 2,000 points. So for Ed Morris Jr., Dennis Weeks, Alexander Brown, Matthew Greathouse, Jason Brewer, Justin Lemke, Kevin Franks, Ed Morris Sr., these guys all still have something to shoot for, and they are all here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a couple of guys that have already been eliminated. David Elliott's here. Jeremy Knapp is here. So, it's going to be fun to see, can they play spoiler here tonight and take a win away from one of these guys that, they're hoping to punch their ticket early into the round of 4. The only problem is, everything's up for grabs right now, and this is going to be the great equalizer here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this round just beginning here, it gives these guys just something. It basically just resets their entire season, and it's because you're eliminating guys and elevating others to that championship fight. As to why you see such low car counts and field numbers when it comes down this late in the season. Some guys decide, well, I'm not in it to win it anymore, so I have something better to do with my Monday night.
You see, I've never had that mindset because, if I haven't made a playoff, I want to play spoiler. I want to steal or try to steal those wins from the guys that, they're hoping to get a win to kind of ease up on what they have to do the following week. If I can play spoiler, hey, that's a giant middle finger to the guys that made it and I got eliminated.
Two guys looking to flash that middle finger tonight will be David Elliott in the number 42, Jeremy Knapp in the 20. Those guys will be looking to play spoiler coming into the race tonight. So as we're about to get set to jump onto the grid here for this round 13 race, third race of the playoffs for these guys, let's now go down and take a look at the grid. Starting on pole here tonight will be the number 51 of Matthew Greathouse, putting in a lap of 40.305. He beat out Dennis Weeks by 2/100ths of a second. That is your front row. David Elliott and Justin Lemke will make up row number 2. Jason Brewer and Jeremy Knapp will sit in row 3. Row 4 goes to Ed Morris and Alexander Brown. Ed Morris Sr. will make up the inside of row number 5. Kevin Franks, the only person who did not qualify for this race tonight, will start on the outside of row number 5. As Tony mentioned, we'll take a look at the weather here tonight. 5-mile-an-hour winds, 77-degree ambient temperature, 106-degree track temperature as this race gets set to go, and that humidity has gone down all the way to 80%.
Yeah, well, what's got me concerned is that wind is now gusting to 10 mile an hour, and it's a crosswind coming out of turn 2, pushing the cars up towards the wall. That's going to be key right now, as that wind it's swirling a little bit, it's gusting. These guys are going to have a problem coming off of turn 2, and you can see from all the black marks on the safer barrier, they've already experienced some of that problem during the hot lap session.
Yeah, as if there's not a big enough issue of guys pushing coming out of turn 2. Add that wind to it, and it's going to make it quite an interesting night to get around here at the Michigan International Speedway. As you can just see between, forget about the graphical updates with all the different signage, this track surface has a completely different color to it, a completely different look to it, a racetrack that looks well worn in. As we get set to come out of turn number 4 here for tonight's race, getting set to go green, pace car is off. Matthew Greathouse getting set to lead them down. 75 laps from the Michigan International Speedway. We are green.
Greathouse and Weeks still side by side. It looks like Elliott's already dropped down to try to make something happen. As Jason Brewer in the 34 not getting the start that he needed, dropping down behind Elliott. So already up a spot right now, as they are still side by side with Weeks on the high side with the nose out front as they haul it off into turn number 3.
Yep, middle of the pack also getting really racy as Dennis Weeks able to take that race lead on the outside line. Now the inside line around this version of Michigan, not as bad as the newly paved version. Didn't put that gradient in the banking in this version. So that inside line right on the line is actually a viable line here with these cars tonight.
It is, but running that low it's going to hurt the right front tire. The guys that are going to be running that second, maybe third lane, and you can see the different pave lines. If you can get a pave line up right about where the 51 is right now, that's ideal for early in the run. You're going to want to move up one more lane from that as the tires start to wear off. As right now you can see Greathouse getting a good run off of 4 side by side with Weeks. He's going to have the nose out front as they haul it off into turn number 1.
Yep, runs to the inside of Dennis Weeks, who are riding on board with 35 of Justin Lemke there for a moment, who has his paint scheme issue sorted from last week at Charlotte. Right template on the right car this time, is still on that inside. Matthew Greathouse can't quite get the move done. Weeks starting to inch out a little bit as we head down the back straightaway. Dennis Weeks now forced to give up that spot on the inside going into turn number 3. Matthew Greathouse, the pole sitter for the first time tonight, has the race lead.
Greathouse going to lead his first lap tonight. All important bonus point for doing so. but he just fully sent it going into 3. And I think Weeks knew that was coming, and he kind of backed out just a little bit to give Greathouse some room, knowing that Greathouse is after that all-important bonus point, especially with it being an 8-way deadlock at 2,000 points coming into tonight.
Now the Charlotte double over these last couple of weeks saw 2 different winners, Ed Morris and Alexander Brown. That is where these 2 guys are running right now, just outside the top 5. Morris running in 6th, Brown running in 7th. Not really moving up much. They've both gained a position on Jeremy Knapp both ways, but these guys have not really moved up at all. Could be strategy because the tires on these things do wear incredibly quick.
Absolutely. Is Brown working to the or on the outside of Morris, as Morris now has to deal with the 20 of Knapp. Had a little bit of a wiggle coming out of 2. That's going to let Knapp get to his back bumper. Morris now has to reel Brown back in as the fight's starting to heat up around 3rd, as David Elliott has gotten by Jason Brewer.
Elliott still holding on to that position as Brewer really hounding the back end of that number 42. And Elliott, one of the 2 drivers eliminated from playoff contention after last week.
Looking to play spoiler here tonight at Michigan.
Yep, absolutely. Jeremy Knapp doing the same in the number 20. He's running in 8th. As Matthew Greathouse right now continues to hold on to this race lead over Dennis Weeks. And Weeks, we saw how good and how close the finish was at Charlotte. These bigger ovals appear to be the sweet spot for the 97.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's probably one of the closest finishes we've seen in a long time in any series that we've broadcast, as it was about a fender. The difference between the cars was the tip of the nose to the front line of the center line of the front axle. That's how close it was at Charlotte. And, Weeks is showing that on the ovals where drafting is important, he knows how to play that aero game.
I don't know what it is about Dennis Weeks' car. Now, the base for the ARCA car is the Chevy Monte Carlo from, I think it's 2006, if I remember correctly. That's the base for this car.
Yeah.
And naturally, with the paint schemes and stuff like that, people turn them into Ford Tauruses or turn them into Toyota Camrys, as is the case on Dennis Weeks' number 97. But it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how some of the illusions can play with this paint scheme, because if you look at it from the right angle, that 97 almost looks like it's in super speedway spec with that front nose raised up a little bit more than normal. I guess it's just the way the shadows are playing with the front bumper.
Well, it's not just on his car. You can see it on the 42 of David Elliott. As he closes in on Weeks, you can see a little bit of a gap in that strip of plastic that runs under the grill. It seems this is a fixed setup league, so apparently the setup they're using has just a little bit more front ride height to try to deal with the bumps here at Michigan tonight.
Certainly giving a very nice look to these guys. It's a battle for second place. Now really starting to get going is Dennis Weeks trying to hold it down, Elliott trying to take it, Brewer trying to capitalize on whatever the 2 in front of him do. And you can almost trick yourself. Again, if you do it right, if you do it well enough, you can almost trick yourself into thinking, wow, that actually is a Ford Fusion. No, it's a Chevy base.
Well, I mean, when you really break it down, in the era that this car was scanned, the only car that really had a different, and I'm using that term loosely, different nose piece was the Dodge Charger, because it had
it was flat.
It almost had that dump truck looking feel to it in the center where the grill was. But if you just ripped all the decals off a Ford or a Toyota or a Chevy at that time, if you weren't very, very, very familiar with the car, it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to put the right decal package on the cars.
See, Jason Brewer still trying to pull off that Ford Fusion look. As boy Weeks getting really high off of turn 3. And that opening the door up for Brewer.
Yeah, definitely a pucker moment. He had to chase it down the hill because he was all sorts of sideways. That's going to let Brewer get to his inside, coming through 3 and 4. Side by side they go. Brewer up to a podium position already.
Yep, Brewer sitting nicely right now, up 2 positions. He and Alexander Brown both tied for biggest mover at +2. As we hit the 12-lap mark. A lot of close racing, and these guys have been doing it well. A far cry from what the case was last week at the Charlotte Roval. Guys were separated by about miles. You needed a sundial.
Yeah.
To tell distances.
No Weeks and Brewer still slugging it out. Yep. As Brewer in the 34 having a little bit of a connection issue, going to the high side, making sure that he's well out of the way. But it's got to be a little bit unnerving for Weeks. Knowing that, Brewer's disappeared a couple of times just in the last lap. And, you never know what's really going to happen when somebody has latency like that.
Had that issue in a C-fixed race in Chicago last night. Oh, my goodness, the 34 got close to that wall, didn't he?
Another coat of paint, he would have definitely been in trouble.
Absolutely, and he'll get rewarded for how close he got to the wall there by taking over that 3rd position. Another close battle for position. This will be for 7th. This is between Jeremy Knapp in the 20 and the 7 of Ed Morris. We had mentioned earlier that these guys not moving up, these guys being Brown and Morris, not moving up at the rate we would have expected them to be moving up tonight. Just kind of staying firm right there. I don't know if they're still trying to test out the tires or what the situation is, but those guys staying rather firm in their positions.
No, I mean, in all honesty, though, nobody in the field's really dropping off dramatically from, their fast lap to now. I mean, you're only at a second difference for the most part with everybody that's still running. All 10 cars still running, by the way. Kevin Franks and Ed Morris Sr. Both kind of a little bit back off this battle between Junior and Knapp. But, it's about a second fall off. We're 15 laps into this tire run. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in another 10 laps if they want to split the race up into a 2-stopper. Pitting on lap 25-ish and lap 50-ish. It's going to be interesting to see what the undercut's going to look like, and who's going to be able to get the pit road first, get the fresh shoes, and make up some ground.
Speed of making up ground, David Elliott certainly has made up some ground as he dives to the inside of Matthew Greathouse for the race lead. A little bit of a push up, getting close. Keep it off of each other, keep it out of the wall, does Greathouse, and he will maintain the position.
And that's something we have seen.
Justin Lemke, however, is having a little bit of an issue.
Ouch.
Either smacked that wall coming out of 2, or he had a big moment.
No, he smacked the hell out of that wall. And you can see it's just completely pancaked the right side of the 35. He had that same problem in the hot lap session. But, the track temperature that we were talking about earlier, back up to 107 degrees, and that wind right now is gusting at 8 and starting to come down a little bit. But it was north of 10 when he smacked the wall. And that I told you that was something we were going to have to be mindful of because it was going to be a crosswind on the exit of 2.
Somebody else also hit that wall. Jason Brewer, we saw in that replay, just kissed the right rear on that wall. He's now battling Dennis Weeks yet again for the 3rd position. Matthew Greathouse, while we were watching that replay there, retook the race lead away from David Elliott. As Ed Morris Sr. comes down pit road in the number 14. Appears to be clean. So not quite sure why he's down pit road. unless he's trying to pit a little bit earlier.
It very well could be. He's got 4 total sets of tires. Might as well use them, as he's going to be the first one to get some service done on that 14. It's going to be fun to see what's going to happen here, because now the fall off is about 1.5 seconds from the quick lap to what these guys have just turned, and it looks like Morris just took 2.
Yeah, he did. 9.55 second pit stop there for Ed Morris. Now these guys, if they wanted to split it up evenly and come into pit on laps 20, 40, and 60, should have a set of tires still left on the wall come the end of this race. Which means if that were the case, pit stop should be starting here in the next couple of laps.
Well, 20, 40, 60 would use up all your sets.
All right. So, yeah, 3. I misread the...
Yeah,
misread the thing,
well, it's 4 total.
Okay, yeah, I misread that.
So to split it up evenly and still have a set in your pocket, it would be 25-50. And then if you get a late race caution, you can use that last set.
And here for almost 2 years, and finally, Tony found a use.
I'm useful?
Love.
Can I have that in writing? That's the first time I've ever been told I'm useful.
Well, there you go.
If I can get that in writing.
Yep, I will be sure to send a carrier pigeon out your way.
Yay and stuff. I do want to thank everybody that's tuning in right now.
Absolutely.
But if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so you don't miss a single moment of action here on ESPN and SRM. We are on the SRM, the Sim Racing Media Facebook page, and the ESPN, the Esports Broadcasting Network YouTube page. And you broke some news to me last night that I almost didn't get any sleep. I was so excited about it. We have finally hit 2,000 subscribers over on the YouTube side. So congratulations to everybody that made that happen. But we want more.
And I was I was reminiscing with you last night about it. Just when I got here in June of 2020, you guys, about a week into my tenure here, had hit 1,000.
Yes.
And you guys wanted me to celebrate it with you, and I didn't because I didn't do anything to get you to that 1,000. It was all you guys. And I remember
But you got us to 1,500 and you still bailed on us.
I didn't hear of a party for 1,500. We had done.
No,
we had gotten to 1,500.
We were all going to get tattoos.
Oh no! I was never a part of that deal.
Oh.
I made that very clear. I was never a part of that deal. See, looking in the middle of the pack, Ed Morris Sr. on his 2 tires, starting to work around Alexander Brown. This is up and around the 3rd, 4th, 5th position range, where the 14 is working right now. My goodness, he almost worked over the back bumper of that 34 of Brewer.
I don't think Brewer was expecting him to go to the high side.
I don't think so either. As that got, I mean, as a driver, I would say unnecessarily close.
You're not wrong. There's another thing that's unnecessarily close is how close Alex Brown is running to Jason Brewer, especially with Brewer still having some connection issues. Not blinking as long as he was, but he still has a little bit of the blinkies, as right now Brown giving him all he can handle.
Alexander Brown right on him. Riding on board with Brown. Trying to just take that second and get that run to make the pass. We are almost a third of the way through here tonight. Still caution free. Pit stops getting set to begin here from the Michigan International Speedway. Matthew Greathouse started on the pole. He has been in the lead for quite some time. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with the green flag pit cycle when we return. Back after this.
Changing the face of the world doesn't happen overnight. It takes a strong group like no other, each containing unique characteristics, ones that inspire change and progress. To be a maestro is to lead, to inspire, and to create, helping shape both communities and industries. Changing the face of the world doesn't happen alone. It happens with strong leaders, ones that defy all odds. The first generation of barber maestros helped create the movement. The second will define it.
From high above the Michigan International Speedway, we are back here on ESPN. The Maestro's Classic ARCA Series, round number 13 of the season. Coming up here on ESPN, tomorrow it'll be a triple header as the Truckers Feed America Cup Series heads to Auto Club Speedway for their third round of the season. That'll be an 8 p.m. Eastern Time start. Then an hour after that will be the Rick Motec Truck Series from Chicagoland. It'll be the first race of the round of 8 for them as well, just as it is over here. That will be a 9 p.m. Eastern Time start. The Western States Racing League will head to Darlington for, I believe, round number 6 of their season. That'll be a 10:05 start. And then coming up on Wednesday will be the Ghost Cup Series from the Pocono Raceway, round number 3 of their season. So a lot of seasons have just begun and are starting to dig their heels in as we have a busy couple of months here coming up on ESPN. The 42 of David Elliott trying to get around the 35 of Justin Lemke. Lemke came into pit just as we went to break, and in pit road right now is the 67 of Alexander Brown. He is getting service done to his number 67 machine. The leaders will stay out just one more lap.
Absolutely, as Lemke finally works his way around Greathouse, and you can see what four fresh tires will do for you. It just, I'm surprised these guys have stayed out as long as they have. As the 67 of Alex Brown gets 4 in fuel and comes out just about a lap down.
Not quite a lap down, but certainly close, as we are just coming up to lap number 33 here, and these guys still show no signs of pitting. 75% fuel fill, as Tony had mentioned here earlier tonight, and with Greathouse pushing up as high as he did, that allows Elliott a clear run into the race lead as Dennis Weeks takes that number 97 down pit road.
Yeah, Greathouse actually tagged the wall coming off of 4, and that cost him a ton of momentum. And Elliott, who still has the clean bodywork, starting to pull away from this. You can see just how much the arrow plays effect here as Elliott's starting to pull away from Greathouse. I got to think that Greathouse running as low as he's been running is really affecting him as, these guys have got to get this sorted out. And up in front, they've got to stop the hemorrhaging because with Alex Brown on 4 fresh tires, he just did a 41.35. Compare that to our leader, David Elliott, with a 42.87.
Jason Brewer hits pit road. Jeremy Knapp coming off of pit road. Dennis Weeks getting out just in front of the leaders. And he will not be a lap down for too long if the 42 gets around him at all. And he will not, as there's the speed differential. About 2 seconds a lap at this point between the guys who have not come into pit and the guys who have, as the 42 and 51 come in at the same time, surrendering the race lead. That will hand the lead of the race over to the 7 of Ed Morris, who has yet to lead a lap here tonight.
Well, he just got scored with that one.
Yep, he did.
So expect to see the 7 coming down pit road momentarily here to try to cut off that undercut that the rest of these guys have been getting. He's been kind of just hanging out there as the 51, 8 different kinds of sideways. Looks like he may have overshot his box. That's going to cost Greathouse a little bit more time in the pits. But, Morris, he was just kind of hanging in there knowing that green flag pit stops, he's going to cycle out to get that all-important bonus point. Morris down and away faster than the 42.
Morris either tried to get down into pit road that lap and missed it, or he got big time loose coming off of turn 4 on that inside. Now, Morris is in a situation to where if he can go another lap or two, he can make it on just this one stop. It's going to be close, but if he can hang here for another lap or two, he can go the distance from here.
But the other thing he's got to be real mindful of is the fact that Dennis Weeks Jr. in the 97 just reset the quickest lap of the race with a 40.76. You compare that to what Morris did with a 43.22. Is it worth it? That's the big question. As Jason Brewer resets it again with a 40.67. These guys on fresh tires are feeling like Superman right now.
Battle for the effective race lead. Alexander Brown passes Justin Lemke, and with Ed Morris, the last driver to not pit. He did not pit last time around. We'll see what he does this time. And he will come in now. So he did 37 laps. He's just got to stretch it another lap, and he can make it the rest of the way. And Alexander Brown right now should come out as the race leader. Justin Lemke second, Dennis Weeks third. And by virtue of pitting so much later than everybody else, David Elliott and Matthew Greathouse, who are battling right now, battling for the 5th position, effective 4th after these guys get around Morris.
Yeah, absolutely. They were fighting to get around Ed Morris Sr. They caught him going into 1, and it was 3 wide there for a quick moment. But they got that sorted out pretty quickly on the back straightaway. But the 42 had a head of steam, hauling it off into turn number 3, and he's starting to pull away as Jason Brewer resets quick lap of the race again.
40.64 for Jason Brewer is a battle for second place now. Dennis Weeks was right up on the back bumper of that number 35 of Justin Lemke, and Weeks takes that second position pretty fair-handedly, and this is kind of as expected. These two have been either hovering around or just outside the top 5 all night. Dennis Weeks was up battling for the race lead earlier on. His race effectively is between Elliott and Greathouse, and he's got quite the advantage, 3.5 seconds over his closest competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. As right now he's all over the back bumper of the race leader, Alex Brown. You got to wonder, after they saw what the 7 did, what's going to be their strategy this time through. It looks like they both have committed to making this a 2-stop race as Brown and Weeks starting to pull a gap on third place Justin Lemke right now.
Now, we had this situation a couple of weeks ago. I believe it was in the Rick Motec Truck Series. Ed Morris, Dennis Weeks really fighting to get ahead of Alexander Brown. And he will do just that going into turn one. So promote the 97 of Weeks up into the race lead. But again, talking about fuel mileage and trying to stretch it out into one pit stop, Ed Morris running in 8th position. Pit road delta around here is between 43 and 46 seconds from cone to cone. So if he can stay inside of there, he will be just fine. Right now, though, he currently
got to save a lap.
Yep, let's see if this is going to work this way. No, it will not. So he's right now, he's got 11 seconds from the back bumper of his car to the front bumper of Weeks. The other way around, from the front bumper of the 7 to the back bumper of the 97 is about, oh no, it is 11 seconds. My bad. Sorry, I was looking at the lap counter.
Just about 12.
I was looking at the lap counter. My bad.
But yeah,
so the graphic is right.
if he can save one lap on fuel, he should be able to make it to the standard checkered. Might be pushing it if we get to go into overtime.
He should be closing this gap at a rather rapid rate. Weeks came in on lap 32 compared to the 37 for Morris. Again, all he's got to do is keep inside of those 43 to 47 seconds, and he should be good to go as he's about to pass Ed Morris Sr. for what would be 7th.
And if you're smart, he'd ride behind Dad for maybe a lap or two and just, save that little extra bit of fuel to make sure he can get to the natural green. As right now, David Elliott all over Alex Brown for second.
And as is proven in motion right there and in my life as well, son not as smart as senior sometimes.
I freely admit that my father was probably one of the wisest men that I ever knew.
There you go.
I didn't find that out until after he passed, though. So
it's unfortunately usually how it happens. As we take a look, battle for second here between David Elliott, Alexander Brown, and Matthew Greathouse. Elliott has taken the spot, as Tony had mentioned. Matthew Greathouse trying to get it. And unless we get a caution here sometime in the near future, we are once again on another classic Michigan fuel mileage race.
absolutely is. For some reason, we have just lost the stream on the Facebook side. There it goes back with everything there.
YouTube side still plugging away.
Those of you watching right now, let us know who you're going for. Are you a Dennis Weeks fan, or are you a David Elliott fan, hoping that he can play spoiler here tonight? Are you a Matt Greathouse fan? Alex Brown fans? We know we've got Alex Brown fans in the house. Let us hear it from those of you up in the Great White North.
We saw a lot of them at the Charlotte Roval last week as
he ate everybody's lunch last week.
What was it, about a 45, 50-second gap margin of victory?
It was half a lap.
He had about a minute and a half on about a minute 10 seconds on Weeks. I know that.
Yeah.
Those are the only three that finished on the lead lap last week, as Dennis Weeks now having to fend off David Elliott. Of the top five, there are the laps that each member of the top five came into pit. Elliott and Greathouse coming in on lap 34 each, so the longest. Justin Lemke getting into a spot where he's going to be battling his teammate Jason Brewer in the not-so-distant future for fifth. As
You know, I dare say that Elliott and Greathouse, they can probably make it. I mean, it's going to be a stretch, but, you know, they came in on lap 34.
Put them at 68 if they did the same. So a good 7 laps short.
Yeah, but we don't know how much fuel they had left in the tank when they came in.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing also with Ed Morris. He was really slow trying to extend it as much as he could. Ed Morris Sr. coming into pit road as Dennis Weeks falls back to third. Now, Ed Morris Sr. was the first one to come into pit, came into pit on lap 17 and only took 2 tires. He's certainly going to take 4 this time.
Kind of has to. Yeah, he just did, so.
As battle for the race lead showing up on screen right here. David Elliott in the 42 out in front. Matthew Greathouse, in the middle in second. Dennis Weeks in third. And looming in the background there is Alexander Brown. Now, Brown came into pit on lap 30 before all 3 of these guys, but just set a lap time. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was a 42.3, so he's actually starting to fall off a little bit. Is the 67, but running that outside, trying to save as much tire as he possibly can.
Well, I mean, all things considered, the round of 8, it's definitely going a lot better for Alex Brown than the initial race of the round of 12 went. I mean, that's a race he just as soon forget, but made up for it last week at the Roval. But, you know, this is a ton better start. Currently running in 4th. One of the drivers in front of him is not in the chase. So with a 4th place finish here tonight and having led a lap, that should allow him to be sitting in 3rd going into next week.
Absolutely is the order in which the chasers finish here tonight. Now, David Elliott and Jeremy Knapp are the only 2 that are not playoff contending drivers tonight. So the order at which these guys finish that are not the 42 and the 20 will be the order at which they come out of this race in points, as David Elliott comes in early.
I'm thinking this is going to be his money stop then.
I would have to say so. He can certainly make 25 laps. If he made 34, he could certainly make 25, maybe pit a little early so he can cover off the 7.
Good possibility. That's a very good possibility. You know, he should be able to reel in Morris as Knapp gets by him. But, you know, next week we're going to Iowa, and that's going to be the real wild card, as, you know, the 0.88 mile tri-oval in the Midwest. That track is tricky as all get out.
Certainly is not an easy place to get around, and it's a place that eats up tires if you don't know what you're doing, even in the best of conditions. Here comes David Elliott out of pit road. So Elliott will assume his place up at the front of the field, quote unquote, but it will be in position 8. As Justin Lemke now comes into pit road in the 37. As expected, he came in on lap 24, so he came in a little bit earlier than everybody else, meaning pit a little bit earlier than everybody else. Lemke has quite a way to go if he wants to catch Ed Morris.
He's got just 25.5 seconds is the gap between the 2 of them, so roughly half a lap.
And you see it's coming down big time here on screen, as it's already down to 24. It's already down to 24.5. But that's also, you gotta think Morris is also saving quite a bit here to try to make it the rest of the way on fuel, as Elliott just set a 40.35 fastest lap of the race by a mile.
Wow. I mean, that's all in the mail right there.
I'll talk about pulling in 2 seconds.
That would have put him on the starting grid in third.
That and then some. Previous fastest lap was Jason Brewer's 40.64. It's a full 0.3 quicker than the previous fastest lap of the race.
I mean, Elliott, he's picking him up and laying him down. I mean, that was a 44.5. So, I mean, he's not letting any moss grow under him, as he's doing everything he can to try to reel in Morris, knowing that Greathouse Weeks and Brown and Brewer all have to come back down pit road to get their final service.
And they're all going to end up coming out behind him at this rate. So the pit stop cycle is in full effect here. The fuel strategy game has begun. 21 laps to go here from the Michigan International Speedway. We'll be back for the conclusion right after this. Final round of pit stops have begun. 16 laps to go. Second place runner Dennis Weeks has come down pit road for what will be the final time, as Alexander Brown looks set to do just that. Here he comes in the number 67 Matthew Greathouse deciding to stay out a little bit longer than everybody else, as we are really starting to get to crunch time now.
Absolutely. Is David Elliott. I've been keeping an eye on that one. He's now, what was a 25-second gap is now down to 11 and a half seconds. So, the biggest question, and you and I were talking about this during the break, is Elliott using up too much of his stuff this early? We all know that, reeling somebody in is one thing, getting by them cleanly is another. Is Elliott overdriving that car? Because once he gets to Morris, as well as I do, Morris is not going to make it easy for him.
And you can see on that graph there that while he is closing, that rate of closure has decreased significantly from 18 seconds where it was on lap 55 to now being at just 10 and a half seconds here on lap 61. That rate of closure has certainly declined, as Elliott now sitting at 10 seconds behind Ed Morris. And you got to remember, Elliott's using his stuff up right now. Morris has been saving it from the second he got out of pit road. He has been saving that prime time number 7, not just to make it to the end, but to have a little something to fight with when it comes down to crunch time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Morris is one of the more cerebral drivers that you're going to see in the ARCA car. He knows how to save his equipment. He knows how to make sure that he's there at the end of this piece. Currently, up 5 spots from where he started, running in second place, only 9 seconds off of, let me make sure I've got this right, only 13 seconds off of Matt Greathouse, knowing Greathouse still has to come down pit road. So with that 43 to 45 second pit delta, the effective race lead belongs to the 7 of Morris, as here comes the 34 of Jason Brewer trying to unlap himself from David Elliott.
Alexander Brown has just passed Justin Lemke for what will be effective third place, as Brewer now gets his lap back, so put the top 6 on the racetrack. If you're looking up at the timing pylon and wondering what in the world happened to Dennis Weeks as Greathouse catches the wall coming out of 4, Dennis Weeks coming down pit road had a little bit of a spill.
A little bit?
We'll take a look in. Still sliding that car, jams on the brakes, realizes he's not going to get there, and did a little bit of damage to that right side. Got popped for speeding. Sat in the box an extra 40 seconds, which is why he is where he is right now, down in the 10th position. So it's not the damage that he caught from hitting that inside wall. It was this 40-second speeding penalty that's put him down.
I don't think he actually hit the wall. I mean, it was darn close, but there was no marks on the wall to signify that he did hit it. I think he saved it. It was just pure speeding that they popped him for.
Might have gotten lucky in that regard, as Greathouse still not taking it down pit road. That's Kevin Franks coming up to get his lap back in the number 98. All eyes now starting to turn towards the battle for what would be the effective race lead here. Because again, Greathouse is about 6-7 laps short on fuel at this point, but you can see he's trying to save, actually. As you can see, his last couple of laps on graphic, he's putting it down into the 43s now, and no one, doesn't matter how worn the tires have been, no one has been in the 43-second bracket the entire race.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing. I mean, is he going to try to make it from here? That's a big ask. He pit well before the halfway mark by about 2 laps. And, getting those 2 laps plus the extra lap you're going to need to get to the checker, and there it is. Great House is in now.
Here he comes. So Great House, that must have just been tire wear that was really taking him out. So Great House actually comes in a couple laps sooner than what he did on the last run. So now it becomes the battle. Can Ed Morris hold off this 7.5 seconds to David Elliott? Now Elliott is in a pretty good spot. While one, he may have been using a lot more of his stuff to catch up to the 7 of Morris. He has the fuel. He knows he has the fuel to make it the rest of the way. He could push Morris, make him go a heck of a lot faster than he wants to, and try to run him out.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest key is, can Elliott make Morris overdrive what he has left in that car, and can he hold off Alex Brown? Because you're talking almost a full second difference between what Brown's laying down and what Elliott's laying down. Plus you have Great House on Lemke still trying to reel those guys in, and neither one of them have been slouches tonight. But, in the closing laps here, as we are 6 to go this time.
Yep, 6 at the line.
It'll be 6 to go at the line. Morris has to hold on for those 6 laps. Elliott was well over a second quicker. He's now down to not even a half second quicker.
Well, that last lap was, he was battling with the 20 of Jeremy Knapp, as Knapp coming out on fresher tires trying to get around him. So Morris a 42.92 and Elliott at a 42.47 this last lap. So it's a half a second, but it is nowhere near enough. He needs to be closing at a rate of a second a lap right now. And if Ed Morris can make it the rest of the way on fuel here, he will have pulled out an absolute worldly to take the victory here tonight.
Yeah, very much. I mean, it's going to be a hard-fought victory. He didn't have a great qualifying attempt, kind of laid back in the early segment, and I got to think that was his goal all along, to make this a one-stop race, knowing that pit delta it's going to be the Achilles heel of everybody having to go 2 stops.
Riding on board with him right now. He's clutching it, going through these corners. About halfway through the corner, we'll ride on board with him right now. Take a listen to this engine shut off as he goes into the corner. Look at the tach all the way at 2,000. He's in idle right now.
And he's just letting that car float through the corner, knowing that he's got more than enough time to hold off Elliott. Elliott's running out of time to try to reel Morris in. We are now 4 to go. Morris, Elliott, and Brown right now, your podium, as Great House doing everything he can to try to reel in Brown, but he's running out of time to get on the podium as well.
Yep, he certainly is. Great House. He's got to make up 7.4 seconds over the next 4 laps, and he can do it. He's got better tires. So he'll be running qualifying laps from here on out, so it'll be close as to whether or not he gets up to Brown or not. Elliott right now looks to be out to lunch. It was 5.8 last time around. Make it now 5.5, so he may have missed that strategy just a little bit. He came in early to try to give himself time to get up to the 7, but the 7 did a great job of staying disciplined here tonight, knowing that he didn't need to catch up to anyone, that the race was going to fall to him. And if he can keep it going these next 6 or 7 miles, he's going to be reaping the rewards.
Yeah, very much so, and that's going to be the biggest thing. As he knows, he's got the 20 of Jeremy Knapp, not for position. Knapp on fresher tires, trying to get a lap back the hard way. Going to let him have it. No real battle going on there. Knapp giving plenty of room to the leader. Doesn't want to be, air quote, that guy. But, yeah, with 2 to go, Morris right now in the catbird seat, and just an amazing strategy that he was able to maintain that discipline in the first segment. He was able to maintain that discipline now in the second segment. or second run, if you will. Making this a one-stop race. This is the biggest coup we have seen in a long time.
This kind of answers the question as to why we never really saw him up at the front. I think his highest running position during that first stint was about the 7th position. So, I mean, this certainly answers why he was not much of a factor in the early stages, saving to try to do this. He's got to make it one more lap. Please,
as he brings
car,
it down
don't
the
shut
back
off.
straightaway on that last lap. Morris just in command right now. 3.5 seconds to the good over David Elliott. All he's got to do is just limp that car to the start-finish line, and Ed Morris is going to punch his ticket into the round of 4, not having to worry about Iowa next week and putting the pressure on the rest of the playoff drivers. Coming out of turn number 4, your winner in the prime time Chevy number 7, Ed Morris.
Unbelievable job by Ed Morris. What a disciplined race from him. This will go down as one of his better wins of the season, if not his best. As Morris takes home the top position, David Elliott comes up to give him a little shot, saying, I just ran out of time. And Alexander Brown, the winner at the Charlotte Roval last week, rounds out the podium.
And like I said, it's definitely a better start to the round of 8 than it was for the round of 12 for Brown. He was really behind the 8 ball, and he needed that win last week to punch his ticket into the round of 8. Now, sitting decently, he's going to come out tonight second in points behind Morris. So, definitely a better start all around. Is Greathouse coming home in 4th. Justin Lemke rounding out your top 5 with the finishing order. But, just an amazing run for Morris here tonight. And he might be out of fuel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he's rolling that thing right now. And such an unfortunate night for Matthew Greathouse. Had one of the better cars here tonight. But sometimes raw pace in the car doesn't matter when it comes down to strategy, and that's exactly what this race came down to here tonight, was pit strategy. As there is Ed Morris in the infield victory lane, and we'll get a word in with him here momentarily as we will start conducting interviews here in just a moment. Very solid night for prime time. First and second place finishes for the Primetime Motorsports team. And Tony, I believe they are all in there and ready to go. So whenever you're ready,
user was moved to your channel.
The race winner, Ed Morris.
Absolutely. We're going to start calling him the Iceman from now on. Ed Morris in the 7. Congratulations on the victory here tonight at Michigan. You showed amazing discipline to make this a one-stop race.
Yeah, it definitely took a lot of work and a lot of patience and a lot of focusing on making sure I was hitting those marks in the corners to save enough fuel to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking about, when you were getting close to just past the halfway mark, Frank and I were talking like, is he going to try to make this a one-stopper? And it makes sense considering that the pit road delta under green flag conditions was between 43 and 45 seconds. The fact that you were able to save a whole 45 seconds over the rest of the field really paid dividends tonight.
Yeah, it definitely did. I was doing the calculations beforehand and running some practice runs and just to see what I could do with it. And I knew it was going to be real close, and it was kind of either I started with that strategy or I didn't do it at all. It was, I started from lap 1 clutching at both ends of the track, just rolling the entry, just saving as much as I can. And it was kind of interesting too, because I really wasn't losing a whole lot of time, especially toward the middle, toward the end of the run too, when everybody's tires started falling off. with that soft, easy entry, I was able to save a lot of tire and was able to keep more momentum in the corner than those guys were at the end of the run and still save fuel at the same time.
And that was basically the key that was able to hold off David Elliott, because we saw him laying down some wicked lap times on those fresh tires, but you seemed pretty much unfazed, knowing that he was reeling you in. He was just running out of time.
Yeah, I was a little worried because when I saw him cycle back out, he was only like 16 and a half seconds back and clocking off really good lap times. And I was like, I started picking up my pace just a little bit, but I didn't have much wiggle room. I ran out as soon as I come across the line, it started sputtering. So, I mean, I guess I worked it out perfectly. I don't know. I think he was still 4 seconds back or 3 seconds back or something like that when I crossed the line. So it was perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Timed it down to just beautifully. But you really put the rest of the field of the Great Eight behind the 8 ball going into next week at Iowa. Your thoughts going into there now that you know you've punched your ticket into the round of 4?
Even better. I'm going in next week shooting to win that thing because Iowa is my favorite track. I love Iowa. I'm really good at Iowa. So I'm not gonna count my chickens before they hatch or anything like that. But I'll be a strong contender next week at Iowa.
You know, you're probably the first driver I've ever met in the iRacing simulator that said that they actually like that track. But Ed, before we let you go celebrate with your primetime team, who do you need to thank tonight?
I'd like to thank the series sponsors, Maestro's Classics and RB Custom Rigs. Thank you guys for all your guys' support. Our wonderful admins for putting on this great show and keeping everything in line and keeping things running as smoothly as they are. And then you guys for putting on an excellent broadcast and being here to showcase what we offer for the fans. I know the numbers have gotten pretty low, and it is what it is. So we'll just try a little bit harder next season to get recruiting and get more drivers in here so they can experience all these long green flag runs and no cautions and clean racing, and they can enjoy it too. But thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Some of the best ARCA racing you're going to find anywhere in the iRacing simulator. Best of luck to you next week at Iowa.
Thanks, guys.
User was moved out
So
of
there
your
was
channel.
your winner, Ed Morris, and we'll go now in just a second here to our second place
User was
finisher,
moved to your channel.
David Elliott, and we saw how Smarts won the race here today. Unfortunately, Braun came up just a little bit short, 2.5 seconds short. I'm assuming that earlier pit stop there was to try to cover off that 7, give you as much time as you needed to catch up to him.
Yeah, that was the plan. Hey, he's my teammate. I knew he had enough fuel. He was going to try to make it. So I tried to duck off there with about 25 to go to take 4 tires and fuel and see if I can just bonsai the last 20 laps there, 20-some laps to see if I can catch him. But I ran out of tire there for about 5 to go. So I probably should have waited maybe to 20 to go. But yeah, he had the strategy. I didn't have enough in me to save that kind of fuel, so I just kind of ran out.
Were you surprised at all by how far away he actually got when you came out of pit road? Were you like expecting maybe 15, 17 seconds, and whoa, 23? That was a little bit more than I was thinking.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting him to be able to kind of get away that far, trying to save like that. So he did a hell of a job. He actually wasn't too far off pace by just saving like that. So yeah, he got a little too far, and I fell a little farther back. I took it a little too easy getting on pit road. I should have kind of got in there a little harder, but that's all right. Top 5, nice run for us there.
Yeah, absolutely. Up towards the front the entire night. We head to Iowa next week. A difficult racetrack in the best of conditions. What are your thoughts going into Iowa?
Yeah, just another track there. Try to survive. Try not to make any mistakes. I'm not too great there, but hopefully I can get out of there with a decent top 5. That's kind of going to be my goal.
All right. Anybody you want to thank before we let you go and celebrate a second place finish?
Yes, sir, man. I'd like to thank you guys here at ESPN, everybody at Maestro Spirit Products, everybody here at Extreme Motorsports and Primetime Motorsports. Thank you, guys.
All right. Your second place finisher here tonight, David Elliott. Bud, congratulations.
Thank y'all.
User was moved out of your channel.
And with that, Tony will now go
User
to
was
our
moved to your
third place
channel.
finisher. That would be Alexander Brown.
Alexander Brown, the start to the round of 8, definitely kicking off a lot better than the round of 12 did for you, coming home with a podium finish here tonight at Michigan.
Yeah, felt good. Would have liked to have qualified a little better because I think, all kudos to Ed on his strategy there. He pulled it off. He said he was working hard literally from lap 1 to 75. But yeah, I mean, it feels good to not completely be out to lunch like it was at Charlotte Oval.
Yeah, absolutely. But, we are going to have a real test next week as we go to the .88 mile that is the Iowa D-shaped Demon of the Midwest. Your thoughts going into that race?
I like that track. I think if I can qualify well, I think my issue in the past is it's really hard to qualify there. Like it's loose the first few laps, and but I think if I can qualify well and then not let an Ed or a Dennis get away from me, I think I got something for them. It's going to take some practice, like I practiced for this week.
Well, Alex, you and Ed have been the class of the field for most of the season. Basically have made the statement over the past couple of weeks that if anybody wants the championship, it's got to go through the both of you to get it. So, definitely a great run here tonight at Michigan. How bad was the tire wear late in the run for you?
I think I was saving better than most people. I was the second run there. I came out with the lead, and yeah, they drove past me pretty quickly. I think Dennis was like the first one to pass me, and after I got past Lemke, but then Greathouse and Elliott passed, but they only got maybe 2 seconds ahead of me, and then kind of plateaued, and then I knocked off like over a half a second off of them at that point. So I think I was saving pretty good. I think, had I started closer to the front, like I would have had something. It may have been a different result tonight, but I decided to almost loop it on my qualifying lap on the second one. Ugh.
Well, hopefully you have some better luck in qualifying at Iowa next week. But Alex, before we let you go celebrate, who do you need to thank for the podium tonight?
Yeah, got to thank Extreme Motorsports for letting us race here. I know we don't have big car counts, but I really do appreciate this league. Appreciate the sponsors that sponsor the league. Maestro's Classic, they sponsor. I actually can watch them Tuesday night on on your network there. Alan Hilton, he drives the Maestro's Classic truck there. So on that truck, teammate of mine, and sponsoring this series. I got to thank the admins this series, especially Michael Thwaites, for actually showing up tonight, making sure we followed all the rules. And of course, D-Dub Button Boxes. Got to thank them. DEEDUB Button Boxes. Look them up on Facebook. Good Canadian company. Button boxes are really versatile. You can use them for your Formula One. You can use them for truck sim. I'm sure you can, put in a few swear words in there if you need to say that to somebody while you're poning some noobs on Call of Duty or something like that. Do people still play Call of Duty? I don't know. And got to thank you guys for putting on these races. Thank you so much.
I've actually looked into button boxes. D-Dub actually has some of the best quality button boxes in the industry. Fight me if you disagree.
Hey, if you want to get yourself one of those, GTM 10, you actually get 10% off. So no better time than now to get yourself one of those Canadian made. I have to plug Canada button boxes. GTM 10, GT Motorsports, my teammates.
There you go then.
Oh, and Scott Lisrammer, he helped me out again this week. He helped me out last week, and then he helped me out this week, and I really appreciated that.
I saw you had a live spotter through most of the event. I was going to ask you if that was the case, but you and Scott are going to be the bane of the existence of this league if you keep doing what you've been doing. But congratulations on the podium. We'll let you go celebrate with your team.
All right, let's see if I can get a couple spots farther next week. Thanks, guys.
User was moved out of your channel.
And that
Well-
was your third place finisher, Alexander Brown. And that will conclude the interview portion of the race here tonight. Tony, flag to flag, green flag racing, pitch strategy. We saw great racing, pretty much everything you could ask for tonight.
Oh, absolutely. That's the one thing I do like about this league is they never fail to impress. Um, some of the best quality ARCA drivers you're going to find anywhere in the iRacing simulator right here in the Maestro's Classic Monday Night League. And if anybody's looking to join a league on a Monday night, this is definitely the league to do so. They're almost at the end of this season, but the next season is going to kick off within a couple of weeks after that. ExtremeMotorsports99.com if you'd like to join the ranks of the Maestro Classic League.
Yep, absolutely. It's been an incredible series full of incredible racing this season. As we get set to wind it down, let's take a look at the finishing results here for tonight's race. Ed Morris, David Elliott, and Alexander Brown, your top three finishers. Matthew Greathouse and Justin Lemke round out the top five. Jason Brewer, Kevin Franks, Ed Morris Sr., Jeremy Knapp, and Dennis Weeks round out the top 10, and the rest of the field. Dennis Weeks, by virtue of that speeding penalty, the only car not finishing on the lead lap. Otherwise, he would have been right around that Alexander Brown, Matthew Greathouse battle. They're coming to the end of this race. So an unbelievable night here from Michigan, and boy, do we have some stuff waiting for you tomorrow. Starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, it'll be the Truckers Feed America Cup Series. That will be from Auto Club Speedway, round number 3 of that season. The Rick Tech Truck Series will hold playoff round number 3, round number 13 from Chicagoland, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night. The Western States Racing League will be at Darlington, round 6 for those guys from the Lady in Black. That will start at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And then coming to you on Wednesday will be the Ghost Cup Series. It'll be the Ghost 200 from Pocono Raceway. That again will be an 8 o'clock Eastern Time start time coming up on Wednesday. So for my broadcast partner, Tony Trapasso, I am Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening here tonight. We will see you tomorrow night for all 3 races that we will be broadcasting, and we will see you here next week from Iowa Speedway for the Maestro's Classic ARCA Series. Good night, everybody.